and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Orion, and we are in a new setup. Don't mind it at all. I'm just living with my grandparents for a while to get myself straight with me mentally and physically, and just to get out of Virginia as fast as possible. I'm working on an internship, like I said, to get experience so I can get out of here. But we're not talking about me today. We are talking about my all-time favorite movies. So I did a video last week, or 2 weeks ago, about my top 4 guilty pleasure movies. And now I feel like making a video about my all-time favorite movie. So please, if you have not already subscribed, click the red button, turn on the notification bell, become part of the Super Chillest family on YouTube. Anyway, let's dive right into it, and I hope you enjoy. Like a lot of people in the world, they find something enjoyable. And that could be science fiction, that could be fantasy, that can be romance. It can be anything you want. And the thing that I click to the most in all of my life, thanks to like my parents for, showing me these movies at a young age, especially when I was 10 years old, or I think I was 8 when I got introduced to Star Wars. And that's the first movie we're going to talk about today. The original trilogy. We're not talking about the prequels, not the sequels, none of that other crap. We are talking about the mainline Star Wars movies that came out 40 years ago. So these movies just hold up such a special place in my heart, especially playing Lego Star Wars, which I'm about to do another video on. I'm going to do a video on Lego Star Wars eventually for Vintage Solitude, coming up in this near month. But Star Wars, to me, was a starting point for me to get into movies. Like, I've always clicked, like, as soon as I saw what a camera was at my very young age, I was astonished. Like, cameras and just taking photos, videoing everything that I did as a kid with stuffed animals and just gameplay, which was a Star Wars game at the time that I was really into. Doesn't exist anymore, but I feel so glad that Star Wars was in my timeline of just one of the most influential movie franchises of all time. I mean, Star Trek came before it, and don't get me wrong, I love Star Trek. Only the original series, however, because that's the only one that I actually clicked to. I never liked or went into like the other stuff, like the 90s and the 2000s. I'm not like there yet. I need to watch the original series, like the whole thing, before I do that. Like, there's Stargate. That is another series I have to mention here. I love the movie Stargate. Stargate is just an incredible journey through like this alien planet that is shaped like Egypt. Like, these aliens are like Egyptians, right? And they're just exploring and how their technology works. It's just crazy how Kurt Russell was involved in that. Kurt Russell was in a lot of movies. He was even Elvis at one point. It's just a crazy world we live in, where all these movies happened at some point in time where a lot of filmmakers didn't know what they were watching or seeing on their screen. These film cameras were really high-tech for the times, especially for the 1980s and 70s and 90s and all that, stuff. It's just crazy how well science fiction movies from the 50s and all that stuff holds up today. Stargate's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I really feel neglected of not watching the show because it always comes on Comet TV. I love Comet TV. They have a lot of good movies going on. Like, they play RoboCop all the time, Terminator, these obscure action movies, sci-fi action movies. It's a wild time, and it's really good. And I cannot forget to mention the horror and noir style genre of in the 1940s, the 50s, and 60s, it was a different time for sure, where it was very restrictive what you could do on television and in movies. And that's where Alfred Hitchcock and The Twilight Zone come in and just obliterate everyone and make the most influential media out there during the times of that genre of horror, sci-fi, and just overall noir, you know, black and white, because that's all they had at the time. And that just gets you thinking, what else did they inspire? And that's what we're talking about. I don't know why I mentioned it today, but I wanted to talk about it on the channel. Now, we talked about The Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock. That means we have to go into the Toolbox Murders. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm honestly, like, I reviewed that movie, like, just because it was the horror, like, I was doing the horror movie, super chill horror movie reviews at the time, you know. That series flunked. I don't know if it flunked or not. My channel's kind of at a 50-50 right now anyway. But the Toolbox Murders, I love that movie. The style of that movie is just dark and gritty, and the character plot twist is just incredible. And it's based on a true story too. It's like an exaggerated version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is also a true story, believe it or not. I think they're all based on that, but it's just switched up in the Toolbox Murders. It's based on a serial killer, which is the uncle in the main trilogy, the main story of that film. It's a very straightforward thing. I loved every bit of it. It was the most graphic and just the greatest thing I've ever witnessed from the 70s horror movie genre. And the Toolbox Murders exceeds in every aspect of that. Going back to science fiction stuff, I've always loved the ability to travel through time. I just love that concept. A lot of people like the concept of World War II in movies and games. Well, that's me with time travel. Ever since 2015, when Back to the Future had its 30th anniversary, I was watching the movie and I was just thinking, what happens next? Does he go back in time? Does he get trapped there? I was enthused by the whole plot of Back to the Future, the first one. And then I watched the second one, and then the third. It's just the story flows so well, and it's just amazing that Robert Zemeckis made a great protagonist and antagonist as well. It's just a great overall story, and Back to the Future has always been one of my favorite time travel movies. And then I played No Time. I made a video on time travel movies on Vintage Solitude. You can check it out on the screen, the card. Time travel movies have always been my favorite thing to go and watch. Every single one. I watch every single time travel movie I can. Even the cheesy ones that no one really remembers, no one really cares about. Even the short films on YouTube. I can put one on the screen. I really love short films. I want to make short films. I've told you guys millions of times. That's why we're talking about movies today. I always want to make movies. And I've always wanted to make movies. That's what I'm trying to say. Short films are the thing of the future, the past, the present, all three timelines together. It's just something I'm really craving to do, and it takes a lot of time to make these things possible. You already know that. But Back to the Future is one time travel movie. Then there's Bill and Ted. You all know of Bill and Ted, probably. And then there's one time travel movie that I watched recently, a few months ago, maybe a month ago at this point, maybe a week, 2 weeks, I don't know. And then there's Looper, which is a time loop movie where this guy goes back in time to 2044 to find a kid, which in reality he doesn't think very straight and ends up meeting himself. And the thing is, he doesn't know this yet, the old guy. In order to end the time loop is to shoot, the younger version figures this out. He has to shoot himself to end the time loop. And it's very dark and gritty, and it's just, the plot of that movie just blows my mind the whole time. It's just, you think, and just, you watch and you sit down and you just zone out in your mind of what the heck just happened. And that's one of those movies. Looper is a mind bender, like a lot of movies I've seen a lot, especially on Amazon Prime and Netflix. It's a good movie. And then there's Artificial Intelligence I wanted to talk about too, which is a movie about a robotic boy that this family puts together, and it's just really sad, and I love that movie so much. It was so good. Like, for my memory, I watched this 2 years ago, back in 2020 or 2021, I don't know. But Artificial Intelligence is just a great movie about this boy trying to find love from his family. And it's just very sad to see what he goes through in his life. And Artificial Intelligence just exceeds my expectations of what a robot or an android should be like in real life. Because if they're going to be around for a long time, they should have the ability to love and, you know, interact and talk to you and be actual, like, feel real to me, you know? Like, every other science fiction movie out there doesn't do that. They don't do it at all. It's a good journey movie. That's what it is. A journey through this boy's life, this android, artificial intelligence, if you will, life. And it's good. And on the final note for this, like, talk, I don't know if I'm going to edit this too well, but I just wanted to just sit down and talk about a few of my favorite movies. That's all this video is. The final note is Spider-Man. Without Spider-Man, I said this with Star Wars as well. Without Spider-Man, this was one of the first movies I've ever seen. On top of Cars or something like that, you know, Pixar, it's kind of obvious that we would see Pixar and Disney, Marvel movies eventually in those early 2000s. It gets wild when Spider-Man comes around, because Spider-Man was the best thing to happen to my life. Every single thing about Spider-Man is excellent. Absolutely amazing, because Spider-Man is my favorite comic book superhero. I know a lot more about Spider-Man than anything else, especially Star Wars. There's a few things I don't know about Star Wars, Star Trek, and anything else that is very comic book related or sci-fi related. Spider-Man's the one that I know the most about. It's crazy. And I love the original trilogy of Spider-Man. I don't really like The Amazing too much, or the new Spider-Man movies, you know, the ones with Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield. They're kind of 50-50 for me. The worst one, obviously, is Amazing Spider-Man 2, because the Green Goblin kind of sucks in that movie, and the Rhino's just worthless trash, you know? But, yeah. Spider-Man, the best. All the other comic book characters for Spider-Man, the movies in particular, with Venom, Morbius, I don't think I'm going to go see Morbius, to be honest with you. But Venom, they were okay movies. Let's just be honest here. They were alright, at least in my opinion. It's nothing special though. We all know where it's at. Spider-Man. Only Spider-Man. And what they did with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe. All the other villains are pretty cool too. In the Marvel MCU cinematic universe, whatever. We're alright. But yeah, that's the final note for me. It's just Spider-Man, you know? Don't have to talk about it too much. Anyway, if you want more talks like this on the channel, please consider subscribing because I want to do more videos like this. And especially since I'm in this new environment, it's going to be a little hard to put out more content because I'm a little scared, you know. Change is change, you know. I don't like it too much, and I'm fine with this. I'm okay with this because I used to do the cooking videos and review in here, so it's fine for right now. But you know, just leave your comments down below. I just want to know. It's a little stressful right now. It's been really mentally straining these past few months and years or whatever. But thank you for watching the channel. I love you guys, and it means a ton that you're still here. I know the channel's slowly growing and dying out as we speak, but I enjoy making these videos, and I enjoy you watching them and liking them, subscribing and all that stuff. Anyway, you can buy the merch. It's down below, and join my Discord. It's a little dead, but this is the Super Chill Nebula. It exists. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Follow my social medias. I'm gonna try to be active more on them. And thank you for watching, and don't forget to stay super chill. I'll see you guys in the next one.